This is the vlog for October 10th, 2018, and Sherlock Holmes is the most portrayed character in film and television. That's an interesting statistic. What it means, essentially, as I understand it, is that Sherlock Holmes as a character has appeared in more works of television or film than any other character, but it's not necessarily the most popular. I mean, it's hard to measure how popular a character is. I also wonder if they take into account the number of Bollywood films. Maybe they do. But like India puts out a lot of film. Admittedly, they probably don't keep using the same character, but Sherlock Holmes and Dracula have some interesting distinctions. Sherlock is portrayed more often than any other character in fiction because he'll show up in things that have nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes. I mean, he appeared in. He's technically portrayed by Data in Star Trek: The Next Generation, so that's a portrayal right there. Dracula is a character name that has appeared in the titles of more works of fiction than any other, I believe. So there are more Dracula movies and Dracula TV shows than anybody else. I love them both. They are both admittedly created by late 19th century English authors, although Bram Stoker is technically Irish, I believe. Which is not to say that I have any deep love of the writing of that period in general, because I was forced to read an awful lot of it that wasn't very much my taste in my English education. I have a major, I don't know how often I've mentioned that on this, but I have a major in English literature. So I had to read a bunch of stuff written in the 1800s, for better or for worse. I have sort of lukewarm feelings for Oscar Wilde. Picture of Dorian Gray is not, I didn't really like that much, but a lot of his plays were actually pretty good. Charles Dickens is a very important writer, and I recognize the importance of his work even if I don't necessarily enjoy reading it. Dracula is one of the coolest books I've ever actually read. As somebody who's studied English, I actually haven't necessarily read all that much. But I did end up reading through Dracula at one point when I had very other options available to me. I haven't actually read any of Sherlock Holmes. I've been thinking about picking up. A lot of the work was short stories, so they're very easy to read in a very short period of time. But I do sort of want to read Study in Scarlet, which was the very first Holmes story, and it was a novel, I believe, which sort of set the tone. But I'm mentioning Sherlock Holmes because when I came home, the TV was on, and it was playing the Sherlock Holmes film from 2009, nearly 10 years old at this point, where Sherlock Holmes is portrayed by Robert Downey Jr. It's a Guy Ritchie film, and Guy Ritchie is one of my favorite all-time directors. That movie is a great movie, and I enjoy watching it every time I watch it. I've had it on in the background while building model kits a lot, so I don't know that I know it by heart, but I know it very well. And that film in particular sort of suits the Halloween atmosphere, because it's dark and it's grim and it's eerie at times, and it has this fantastic music that's just so wonderful at setting a mood. Just a lot of fun all around. The sequel I didn't like as nearly as much. It had its moments, but it sort of felt like it was built too much to rely on the certain kind of humor introduced in the first movie and less on strength of storytelling, strength of details. I think it's sort of lost. There's a lot more character and character development, but details are sort of what make a Sherlock Holmes story. Details hidden by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and so many different authors that have done pastiches of Sherlock Holmes, including, if I remember reading this correctly, an author, was it Neil Gaiman? set Sherlock Holmes in the universe of H.P. Lovecraft in a story called A Study in Emerald. Now, that's something that I really want to track down and find. But I sort of want to read, like I said, I want to read A Study in Scarlet, and I want to read it first so that when I'm reading A Study in Emerald, I'm more familiar with how much fun the author is having with the setting. I am going to, real fast, see if I can find adaptations. Yeah, Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman, A Study in Emerald, written in 2004. So, well, that's 5 minutes for me. And I'm liking keeping these short lately because I've been so busy with work and I don't want to talk too much about work. And I think shorter videos are easier to watch. So, I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.